LMA, a key concept and tool and behavior behind EOS. And LMA is for anyone who has direct reports. And LMA stands for lead, manage, and accountability. So it's lead, manage, and drive accountable. So there's tons of books and teachings on leadership, tons of books and teaching on managing, a lot on accountability. And what we're talking about here is if I lead effectively and I manage effectively, that drives accountability. If I have to hold someone accountable, I've made a bad hire. In today's day and age, it's very vulnerable or very visible and vulnerable to if I'm supposed to get something done, it's pretty obvious if I get it done or not. So when we talk about leadership, there's 5 practices that we talk about. I'm giving clear direction, and this is that I'm creating an opening where, that it's like, okay, this is where we're going. It's a compelling vision. I'm sharing the VTO, making sure they understand that they understand the direction. So as you understand who we are as a business, creating the opening of here's again where we're going, where could you be going? So am I giving clear direction? Am I providing the necessary tools? And this could be resources, training, technology, people, time and attention. We're all busy, but if I'm not giving time and attention to the people that I'm leading, then they could be lost. I was a sales rep for a copier company years ago, and we had 20 reps. The big boss came in from out of town and met with 18 of them. And I was like, why didn't he meet with me? And my direct boss said, well, because you're doing okay. And it's like, but I'm not getting the time and attention. The people who are getting time and attention are the ones who aren't driving accountability. 3, am I letting go of the vine? And this is we talk about to delegate and elevate. And so letting go of the vine is trusting others. So if we have the people in the process that I am letting go of the vine, I'm trusting, I'm letting other people do stuff. Now I need to make sure they're trained and whatnot. The story there is a person's walking along on the top of a cliff and trips and falls and is falling to their death, their demise, and miraculously grabs onto a vine. And they look down and it's 1,000 feet down, and they look up and it's 1,000 feet up. And they're like, what do I do? There's nobody around. And not being necessarily a spiritual or religious person, they said, oh, what the heck? I'll just shout out to the heavens and say, is anybody up there? And then a voice bellows down and says, let go of the vine. And the person holding onto the vine looks down and says, is anybody else up there? And so what this really is, it's a fun, simple term rather than saying, how come you're doing that? Or let me do it. It's like, hey, dude, let go of the vine. I got it. Trust me. Now, again, there needs to be the right people in the right place, but am I letting go of the vine? Because if I'm doing it all and it's up here and I'm not bringing other people along and delegating to them so they elevate, then I'm not being a great leader. And then delegating and elevating is basically what we talk about is, okay, here's all the things that I'm accountable for. And so is there any of these that I can delegate to someone who either has more time, has more capability, they've done it before, they're better at it. And so, but it's like, oh, I'll just do it. Or it's going to take me an hour to train them and it only takes me 10 minutes to do it. But if it takes me 10 minutes every day and I'm not trusting and empowering someone, then I'm actually holding them back. So to trust them and be clear that it's like, okay, do you understand? Document the process, train them, shoot a video on it. And then, hey, if this happens or this happens, please let me know. Other than that, I trust you, I empower them. So not only am I delegating things that I maybe am not good at or don't like, and I'm giving it to someone who either has more time, they can do it faster, they like to do it. It's amazing. And a lot of times it's a guilt thing, but if I delegate, then I can elevate to the next level and do things that I really need to do for my role. So if I delegate doing invoicing, which it takes me an hour a day, and someone else does it in 15 minutes, and then I can go drive more business, boy, is that worthwhile. Plus, I trusted someone. And it's not just me elevating, I'm elevating someone else because I'm trusting them and empowering them. The fourth leadership practice for LMA is I act with the greater good in mind. And so my actions, my decisions, I'm walking the talk, and what I'm doing is in the best interest of the company. And then last, and this is an interesting one, is am I taking clarity breaks? And this literally is one of the biggest breakthroughs people have. And it's, oh, when I have time, I'll do a clarity break. And what a clarity break is, 30 minutes once a week. I'm not on the phone. I'm closed my office door or I'm out of the office. I'm not checking email. And it's basically tapping into that part of the brain which is creative. Too often we are, you know, I got to get this done, I got to get that done, and it's like it's tapping into that creative part of the brain and having no agenda, and just to think about, okay, what can I improve on? What's bubbling up? Is there an issue I can solve? Is there some new way to look at something? And clarity breaks, again, pure EOS is I take a clarity break once a week for 30 minutes. And I protect it because what it does is it reignites the creative part of our brain and it helps us to work on the business, which is leadership. And what happens is as people like, well, I don't have time. Well, when I spend 30 minutes, I might solve an issue that I don't have to keep dealing with every week. Or I might have a solution or an idea that makes sense. And people look forward to clarity breaks. And some people do 2 or 3 clarity breaks a week. So are you taking clarity breaks to work on the business, creating clarity, protecting your confidence? And literally, it could be a blank legal pad. I use my whiteboard. I come in at 6 in the morning to do my clarity break on Monday mornings. So those are the 5 leadership practices of L or LMA. The 5 management practices is number one is keeping expectations clear. So my expectations of you and your expectations of me and their expectations of themselves. So are we really clear? So do you know what your roles are? Do you know what your, are you a core value fit? Do you know what your rocks are? I mean, open and honest. Do you get it? Because sometimes they'll be like, okay, so what do you think of your roles? Like, I never knew what that one meant. Okay, well, ask, be vulnerable, ask. So am I keeping expectations clear? Am I communicating well? And this is that I'm communicating and I'm letting them communicate. We know what's on each other's minds. And that I love this one is the question to statement ratio. When I looked at this, it was to be, like I'm a pretty good manager. Okay, great. But then I was telling people what to do rather than asking questions. So that statement, so it might have been years ago, it might have been 10 or 20% of questions and then 80 to 90% just telling, and it's to flip that and start saying, well, what would you do? What do you think? And then listen. Too often I'm like, I'm too busy to listen. No, listen. Do I have the right meeting pulse? How often am I meeting with my direct reports? Is it an even exchange of dialogue? Are we looking at the measurables? And then pure EOS is that we would have 3 to 7 direct reports. If you have more than that, it's something to look at because, again, we can only handle, usually as humans, 3 to 7 rocks, 3 to 7 direct reports. So if not, that's something to discuss with your boss on, do we have the right, but so then pure would be we meet with every one of our direct reports once a week, even for 5 minutes. But we just have a check-in once a week. Hey, how's your week going? How are your to-dos? How you doing on your rocks? It's like, oh my God, I have 20 direct reports. I don't have time for that. Okay, let's look at the accountability chart. But if it's okay, hey Bob, checking in, what do you got? So this also helps to avoid impromptu things. So if I know I'm meeting with my boss every Tuesday at 9 o'clock for 15 minutes, it's just, hey, I was thinking about this, or what about that, or whatever it might be. That is a key thing. So that's the meeting pulse. And then also, so then the fourth one is having quarterly conversations. And what this means is that once a quarter, we're going outside of the office. It would be pure, might be an hour and a half lunch. It can be informal, where we're talking about, we call it the 555. So how are you doing on the people analyzer? So the core values. And so open and honest, how are you doing on the core values here? I think you're doing well here. We could work on this. And again, it's a disservice if we're not being open and honest with our direct reports. And hopefully we've established that trust that it's like, well, I don't want to tell Fred this because he's doing the best he can. Well, I'm not giving him that. Then I get frustrated when he does that, and then I want to fire him. So to be open and honest to say, hey, Fred, you know what? On your core values, here's something you can look at. And again, the people analyzer is a key there. The second 5 is how are you doing on your rocks? You have usually 3 to 7 rocks. So it's been 3 quarters in a row. You've only gotten 20% of your rocks done. The goal is 80%, not even 100. If I get 100 every time, I'm not stretching myself. But if it's 20%, 30%, it's like, okay, Bob, what do you think? What do you think it should be? It should be 80. And why aren't you getting it done? What can I do to help you? I kind of look at the accountability chart. It's not that everyone reports to me, it's I report to everyone. It's my goal is to help all of my leaders and all my direct reports be successful. And then it's up to them to help everyone below them to be successful and be accessible. So the second 5 of the 555 on the quarterly conversation are the rocks. How you doing each year? each quarter. And then the last 5 is how you doing on your roles and responsibilities. So going through your 3 to 7 roles and responsibilities to say, I'm doing pretty good here. I could work on this. I could work on that. Or, you know, you're nailing that. And so it's a chance to pump them up and to coach them. And that's part of the management. So each quarter to have a conversation about those things. And then when you really have the trust, do a 360. Hey, how do you think I'm doing on the core values? Open and honest. And so that's a way to establish trust. It's like, I can't tell Bob. I think he's a plus minus on this core value or on this role or responsibility. It's like, you know, you're not good at that. I had one of my salespeople when I was a sales manager for the last company I worked for, and he was open and honest. He's like, you know what? I don't feel like you're managing me. You're so worried about the people above you, and you're not giving me the support. And it's like, wow, thank you. And so the same thing when I'm one of my direct reports, I want them to thank me. I'm coaching them up. And then the last of the 5 management practices is that I'm rewarding and recognizing. So give positive and negative feedback within 24 hours. Too often I'm like, oh, I'll get back to John on that. And then I kind of, yeah, it's not that big of a deal, or that was a while ago. So positive or negative, say, dude, that was amazing. Way to go. Or, hey, you kind of smirked when they said something, or you cut that person off. And it's that you do hear. And again, are they coachable? And is that, and how does that fit into the core values? Criticize in private and praise in public. Don't beat someone up in public. And to praise in public, boy, it's like, wow, I feel really good. And be their boss, not their buddy. And then we also talk about the 3 strike rule, that if someone isn't doing well on something, to say, do you understand that this is vital? You need to be, 80 be mostly positives on the people analyzer. You need to be getting 80% of your rocks done. You need to be knocking out your roles and responsibilities. And if someone is struggling, to say, do you see, do you understand, do you agree? And then, hey, if we can't step it up, this may not be the place for you. And again, hopefully it's not a threat. It's just, and what can I do to help you? So to lead and manage drives accountability. And again, if you have anyone directly reporting to you, we need to brief these skills up. So LMA, it makes all of our lives easier. We're elevating our employees, which makes our jobs as leaders, more fun, more productive, and it's just a lot easier. That's LMA.